Hello to everybody in the webinar space. We're still working to get a couple of our speakers connected. They are in some locations where it's a little bit difficult to get the connection up and running, so please do bear with us. We will be getting started as soon as we get them connected in, ideally in the next couple minutes. So please hang tight and have a look around the webinar space while you wait. You'll see that there's a chat feature where you can ask questions. There's also a Q&A, another place where you can ask questions. I will be collecting those questions throughout the presentations, and then we will be getting as many of those addressed as possible during our Q&A portion. So you can start thinking about what you want to discuss there. Please hang tight. Hello, everybody. My name is Rebecca from the World Bank. We will be starting shortly. We're still working to get two of our speakers connected from their remote locations, so please do hang out and get familiar with the space. I see that there are a couple questions about sound down below. There was a multimedia player that I just disabled. If you still have it enabled on your computer, you can find that on the right-hand side of your WebEx window on the bottom, and you should be able to close that window. It's called the multimedia player. Let me see if I can disable it in a bigger way. Stephen from the World Bank, if you can hear me, can you please unmute yourself and I'd like to check your sound.
Sure, Rebecca, good morning. This is Stephen on.
Hey, Stephen, that sounds great. Thanks so much. You're welcome to mute that right now, and hopefully we'll be getting started as soon as we get our speakers.
Great, thanks.
Thank you.
Rebecca, this is Karima. I think Alioune is
Hello, Karima.
connected. Can you please give him the speaker role, and we make sure his voice is there?
Absolutely. Just
Thank
looking
you.
through. I don't see Alioune yet. Oh, yes, I do
see
now.
him. Yeah,
Okay,
okay.
Alioune, we've connected you as a speaker. Let's get your sound tested, and then we'll get this webinar up
But
and running.
I still don't see him connected.
Alioune, it looks like your sound is not yet connected. If you can
So
check that.
I'm online with him on the phone, so let me
Okay,
follow with him, okay?
great. I'm going to mute you, Karima. To everybody who is on the line, my name is Rebecca. I'm with the World Bank. Welcome to our webinar. We're having a couple of technical difficulties with our speakers who are accessing the webinar from some remote locations around the world. So please do bear with us. We do have them online. We're just waiting to get their sound checked, and we'll get started. So please do bear with us. While you're waiting, you can have a look around the webinar space. We'll have presentation. You should be able to see your presentation on the left-hand side of the window. On the right-hand side, there is a chat feature which you can drop down, as well as a Q&A. Please do feel free to use those to ask me any questions you may have about the sound, anything technical, or if you have any questions for the presenters, you can ask those there as well. I will be consolidating those questions, and we will be using those for our discussion portion of the webinar, which follows the presentations. So please do be thinking about your questions for the speakers. Oh, and if you do have some... Hello?
Oui. Allô?
Hello, is this Alioune?
Allô?
Hello, this is Rebecca. Can you hear me?
C'est bon?
Yes, that's great. That's fantastic. We can hear you just fine.
C'est bon?
Yeah. Can you hear me, Alioune?
Allô? C'est bon?
Yeah, it's great. Alioune, can you hear me?
Is it okay?
Yes. Can you hear me? Can you confirm that you're hearing me?
Sorry?
Alioune, can you confirm that you are hearing me speaking?
Yes, I'm hearing you.
Okay, perfect. I'm going to put you on mute for now. We're going to wait for Abramoun, and then we're going to get started. So I'm going to mute you for now. Please do not turn your computer off. We're very happy to have you here.
Okay.
So please just stand by. Thank you. If you do have background sound playing, this is for all of the participants. If you have background sound playing, you may have the multimedia presenter enabled, and you can disable that in order to cut that background noise. You can find the multimedia player on the right-hand side of the screen. It should be near the chat feature. It should be near the Q&A. If you scroll down, there should be a multimedia player. You can close that entirely, or you can press stop on the video that's playing there, which is a PARM video from a previous webinar. Please do let me know if you're not able to figure that out. I have a couple questions about that in the chat feature. Hello to everybody who's on the line. It's 10:40 in the morning. We're running a little bit late. We're just working to get our final participant, our final presenter connected with the sound. So please do bear with us while you're waiting. I invite you to look at the presentation, which we will be going through. It's on the left-hand side of your webinar screen. On the right-hand side, you can find a Q&A box where you can write questions as we're going through the presentations. I will be compiling those and sharing those with our moderator at the end. And we will be discussing those, so please do be thinking about what you want to speak to the speakers about. If you have any issues with the sound or any other aspect of the WebEx box, please do type into the chat feature, and I will work to get those addressed as soon as possible. Thanks so much for being here, and we hope to get started in the next couple minutes. Hello, everybody who's on the line. Thank you for being here with us today, and we're very sorry about starting later. We're still sorting out one of our speakers, but we will get to his presentation second instead of first as planned. So we're going to get started now. I welcome you to the space on behalf of the whole webinar team. This webinar is a part of the World Bank's Forum on Agricultural Risk Management webinar series. Our webinar today is run in collaboration with the Platform for Agricultural Risk Management, or PARM. And today's topic is PARM Senegal Agricultural Risk Assessment, which takes a deeper look into the livestock and fisheries sector. The webinar today will be an occasion to discuss the assessment with the authors, Alioune Badara C. and Abderrahmane Wane. We'll also be joined by Stephen D'Alessandro, author of the World Bank's Agricultural Risk Assessment Study in Senegal. We're also going to be showing a short video on the outcomes of the last risk assessment validation workshop held in Dakar, where the government and the main stakeholders recently gathered to prioritize risks in the agricultural sector in Senegal. And this is based on the two PARM studies that we're going to be discussing today and on the World Bank study. So really quick, to give you a rundown of our agenda today, I'm going to give you a sense of the webinar space. I'm going to introduce the speakers. Then we're going to have an introduction into the PARM context, and that's going to be done by Jesus Anton from PARM. Then we're going to have a short look at the World Bank study, and that is going to be given to us by Stephen D'Alessandro. We're going to show the video next. If we're able to, we'll see. We're either going to show the video or we're going to jump right into our presentation, given that we're running a little bit short on time. If we do not show the video, then we will definitely share that with you after the webinar. And then we're going to have our two presentations. So the first one, we're going to do Alioune's presentation on fisheries, and then we're going to follow that presentation with Abderrahmane's, which is on livestock. Then we're going to have a discussion for the remainder of our time. And as we go, please do be asking questions in the Q&A feature of the WebEx space, and I'll be collecting those for our speakers. You can find that Q&A box on the right-hand side of your webinar screen. So for our speakers, today our facilitator is Jesus Anton. Jesus is a Senior Program Manager at PARM. This GHG20 initiative is hosted by the International Fund for Agricultural Development, or IFAD, and it promotes risk assessment and risk management policies in 9 African countries. Before IFAD, and until August 2014, Jesus worked as Senior Economist in the Trade and Agriculture Directorate of the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, or OECD. He has been advisor in the Spanish Ministry of Agriculture from 2005 to 2007. He holds a PhD in economics, an MSc in economics from London School of Economics, and a master's from the Collège d'Europe in Belgium. Jesus has lectured on economics and agricultural policy in universities all around the world. He has published in OECD and academic journals on topics related to modeling and evaluation of agricultural policies, international trade and WTO decoupling, common agricultural policy, risk management, insurance, food security, climate change, and more. He'll be able to tell you a little bit more about himself when I give him the floor. Our World Bank discussant is Stephen D'Alessandro. Stephen works with the World Bank's Global Food and Agricultural Practice, GFA-DR, focusing primarily on agricultural risk management and other pathways to stronger systems and livelihood resilience. Before joining the bank in 2013, he was a freelance consultant supporting market-driven approaches to sector growth, food security, and smallholder development across sub-Saharan Africa. So our first speaker is Alioune Badara. Alioune is a socio-economist specialized in fisheries, where he has more than 28 years of experience. In Senegal, he served for 20 years in the Ministry of Fisheries at the central and decentralized level. From 1988 to 2000, he worked as a credit and development specialist for professional organizations in the Petit Côte small-scale artisanal fisheries development project, co-financed by the government of Senegal and the African Development Bank. This has allowed him to have a long experience of artisanal fishing in the coastal zone, as well as an extended knowledge of the problems related to development of fisheries. He has also worked at the central level as a fisheries economist. Our second speaker is Abderrahmane Wane. He is an economist with a PhD in development economics and has significant professional experience in agricultural economics, in particular in the Sahelian livestock economies. Over the last 13 years, he has been conducting strong research activities in 2 major worldwide research centers, CIRAD, which is the French Agricultural Research and International Cooperation Organization, working for sustainable development of tropical and Mediterranean regions, and ILRI, which is the International Livestock Research Institute, a CGIAR research center that works to improve food security and reduce poverty in developing countries through research for better and more sustainable use of livestock. At this point, I'm going to pass the floor over to our moderator, Jesus, for an intro on the PARM context. So Jesus, over to you.
Thank you very much, Rebecca, and good afternoon to everyone. Very briefly, you have already introduced what the Platform for Agricultural Risk Management is as an institution coming from the G20 and hosted in the International Fund for Agricultural Development, IFAD. I need to mention the supporting agencies for IFAD, for the PARM, which are the European Union, the Agence Française de Développement, the Italian Cooperation, and the German Cooperation. And we work in a strategic partnership for policy analysis and processes in African countries with NEPAD. As you can imagine, for the platform, the main 2 block of activities that we do in each country is starting from a good systematic risk assessment of the agricultural risk in that country, and moving from there to the tools assessment and the implementation of these tools to improve the management of risk in these countries. We do it in a holistic approach that we try to quantify the different sources of risk, comparing the different sources of risk for agriculture, and comparing also the different tools that could be used in order to manage this risk without privileging any specific source or any specific tool ex ante. So we try to do this kind of rigorous analysis using quantified methods in order to assess this risk and comparing them and matching them with the perceptions. All those is very similar to aligned with the methods and analysis that is being done by the World Bank in Senegal and in other countries. In the case of Senegal, when we started working, already the World Bank was working, had already done a risk assessment study on Senegal that started in 2014, and it was discussed in a workshop in 2015 in which we participated as PARM. And there, the World Bank work, and as Stephen will present afterwards with more detail, work on early warning systems, early resilience for smallholders, and pastoral systems management. What we did in PARM when we arrived is, of course, trying to do in cooperation, in coordination with the World Bank and also with the government of Senegal to find complementary work that could serve the government of Senegal and the stakeholders in Senegal in order to improve their knowledge about the risk and the identification and appropriate tools to manage this risk. And that's why PARM focus its risk assessment studies in these two areas, livestock and fisheries, working with two experts and very well knowledgeable on these sectors on Senegal that have been already introduced by Rebecca, Alioune and Wane. And we also had the opportunity of presenting these studies and discussing these with the stakeholders in order to see the matching between the results of this analysis, of this evidence, compared to the perceptions of the risk that the stakeholders have. That was done during the workshop, and hopefully we have the opportunity to see the video to show what is the kind of work we have done in this workshop to this matching. It is really a pleasure to present these two studies here in the context of the FARMD webinars. We are very active in the FARMD forum to do this kind of webinars, as you will know. And we thank very much the World Bank and specifically Rebecca and Stefan for organizing and for participating in this webinar. Before giving the floor to Stephen, I just want to announce you that PARM will hold an additional workshop on specific ARM tools in early July in Dakar. The exact date will be confirmed with the government of Senegal very soon, and you will have time information. With this, I think I give the context. I think if I understand now, I give the floor directly to Stephen to present a little bit the background of the work that the World Bank had done before PARM arrived to work in Senegal.
Great. Thank you, Jesus. And I want to thank the FARMD organizers and our PARM colleagues for extending an invitation to participate in today's webinar and to share briefly a bit about our experience in conducting the sector risk assessment a couple years back, as Jesus mentioned, and maybe just a bit about some of the challenges and lessons learned. I'm not going to get into the technical part and some of the findings of this study given time, but I'm happy to follow up with a brief by email for any participants that might be interested in seeing that. You know, as introduced, I work with the Global Engagement Unit, what's called the GE unit of the Global Agricultural Practice here at the World Bank. And it was back in early 2014 that we started engaging in Senegal, looking to get a better understanding of the dynamics around agricultural risks and their impacts on the sector. And essentially, the methodology that we developed is very much in line with the assessment methodology that PARM has been developing and furthering. Essentially, it's looking to prioritize the sources of risk that have the greatest impact on sector growth and broadly agricultural livelihoods, with the understanding if we could size up those risks and figure out which ones had the biggest impact, that we could really focus down on those with more robust mitigation, transfer, and coping mechanisms as a way of building resilience in agricultural production systems, livelihoods, and broadly the sector's growth. And based on the findings of the first assessment that we did in early 2014 that we started, we did come back about a year later to do a follow-up phase 2, which is really based on the findings of the first assessment and the areas that we think are priority areas. We come back to kind of do a deep dive analysis into specific areas that we think should get more attention, and that through investments in infrastructure, training, capacity building, and even policy reform could improve the ability of various actors to manage those risks in a better way. And as I think, as you mentioned, the three areas that we looked at in terms of investment areas: catalyzing better management of water, soil, and pastoral resources, including livestock and rangelands, and then also strengthening early warning and response systems, and supporting enhanced evidence-based decision-making at farmer level via delivery of advisory services, weather services to farmers and pastoralists to bring decision-making down to the local level. Fortunately, you know, one of our challenges is that this activity in Senegal and our engagement in other countries was a resource and time-bound activity. And so, as Jesus mentioned earlier, they fortunately were able to participate in what was somewhat the wrap-up workshop of the second phase, and they have since been able to carry this work forward. And a kind of a much broader engagement framework around agricultural risk that they've been developing and implementing in different countries across the region. So really pleased that we were able to, in Senegal as well as some other countries, collaborate effectively in carrying this work forward. But before maybe what I can maybe just share quickly some lessons learned in Senegal through this work and elsewhere, in probably about a dozen countries that we've conducted these risk assessments in. You know, in terms of what constitutes or what are the ingredients that bring about effective engagement on agricultural risk management. One, I think I alluded to earlier, it's really important that there is a strong and long-term commitment on the part of all stakeholders and an understanding of the importance of managing risk, not just focusing on productivity, but actually effectively managing the downside risks that many stakeholders face and that really set back poverty reduction efforts and sector growth efforts when calamity strikes. Also, we find that, or we have found that it's really critical that the process is country-led, that it's owned locally and managed to meet the contextual requirements and to really sustain traction over time, because it is a process. It's not a one-off event when we're thinking about risk management. So one thing that we did, which I thought was very useful, and there seems to be some continuity with the work that PARM has been doing, is I think we really made an effort to engage and work collaboratively with the Ministry of Agriculture, with the Ministry of Livestock, and the Research Institute, ISRA, not just coordinating with them, but actually inviting them to participate in the engagement, the stakeholder consultations that we did in different regions of the country at various levels, and they not only contributed, but they were participating in the data collection, the writing of the report, and really from A to Z. So it really does in that encourage ownership of the process, which is so important for kind of forward action and long-term commitment. In terms of the bank and the way we're structured, we also found that it's very important that the process is is driven by the local, through the local office, with local counterparts within the office really spearheading the process. And that really contributes to more broad-based participatory engagement and stronger buy-in. And it also facilitates potential follow-up with the bank coming in to support any priorities or action plans that the government develops out of the activity. And that's happened in some countries that we've done these assessments in, Niger, Kenya being two countries where there was actually a lending project that came out partly out of these risk assessments. Maybe more importantly than what the bank can do in terms of supporting it, is some countries it's also led, Paraguay being one of them, Niger being another, Malawi a third in the region, that the assessment really fed into and informed and guided the development of a long-term risk management action plan. So that's really critical in terms of traction and making sure that it gets embedded into long-term policy planning and programming within the government structures. And you know, perhaps with that, given the time issues, the fact that we started late, maybe what I'll stop there and hand things back over to Yesus just with one last comment that I much enjoyed the video that was playing earlier as we were waiting for the webinar to start, that it looks like came out of the last workshop that PARM held in Senegal just recently. It's very informative, and if you haven't had a chance to see it, I would encourage participants to take a look at that. And again, if anyone is interested in getting a summary of the outcomes of the risk assessment process that we did, happy to share that through Rebecca offline. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stephen. Stephen, thank you for your comments, and that video that was mentioned will absolutely be shared. Given that we are rather short on time now, I want to make sure that we have enough time for both of our presenters to speak and also for us to have a discussion following those presentations. I'm going to skip showing you the video right now, but we will share that. I'll actually share it in the chat feature down below, but I'll also make sure that goes out in correspondence following this webinar. So please do take a look at that. We're now going to transition to our first presentation, and I see that we have both of our presenters on the line now. So Abdrahman, if we can get you unmuted, let's get started with your presentation. Abdrahman, can you please let us know if your sound works? Can you say something? And Abdrahman, if we're still working on your sound, then we're going to go ahead and start Alioune's presentation. So let's see. Alioune, can you say something? Does your sound work?
Okay.
Okay, Alioune, so 1 second. What we're going to do, since you're going to start your presentation is a little bit later, you can scroll to your presentation on the, do you see the presentation in front of you? You can use those arrows to scroll forward. I'm going to give you, there you go. Cool. So Alioune, you have the floor. Please take us through your presentation.
Thank you very much. I'm not very good in English, but I will try to make myself well understood. The scope of the study is to provide a comprehensive mapping and assessment of the risk in fisheries sector, subsector in Senegal. As you know, the country context, you can note importance of fisheries subsector in Senegal. Fisheries contributed to 13.45% to the GDP. Production is estimated at around 500,000 tons per year. Very important. And the fish consumption is a major contributor to protein supply. Our study focuses on small-scale coastal artisanal fisheries because these fisheries account for 80% of total landings 60% of supplies to exporting factories and about 90% of national fish consumption. The main risks identified by the studies are, first of all, the operational risk. Each fishing trip can create a loss due to the random nature of the fishing activity. Fishing is a hunting activity, and also the resource scarcity, which is the consequence of the overexploitation and the poor regulation of the exploitation by the government. So these factors generate an operational risk. Second risk, variability of environmental conditions. Very important for fisheries sector, because some species like small coastal pelagics that account for more than 80% of the fishery potential depend for their abundance on the dynamics of the hydroclimatic system, like surface water temperature or upwelling intensity. Third, meteorological and climatic risk. As you know, bad weather often causes temporary cessation of fishing activities or accidents at sea, such as capsizing, collision, destruction of production equipment, loss of human life. As for the climatic risk, the sea level rise and its consequences, like coastal erosion, destruction of habitat and fishing infrastructure, changes in temperatures that can have significant influences on the reproductive cycle of fish and the spatial distribution and abundance of some species. Another risk, which is very important, is illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing, called IUU fishing. IUU fishing often causes environmental damage through prohibited gear, damage to ecosystems. IUU fishing also impacts smaller scale fishers by stealing fish from nearshore waters or undermining the ecosystem on which the fish depend. Market risk is also very important, because this risk concerns mainly access to European Union markets that are very remunerative but very demanding in terms of compliance with sanitary standards or traceability of catches. In case of non-compliance, the country faces the risk of suspending the entry of this fishery, of its fishery products into the European markets, causing a drop in exportations. Another risk, Senegal is very depending, fishermen in Senegal are very depending on the access to the EEZs of the neighboring countries like Mauritania, because Senegal is in a situation of fishing overcapacity. This is why a significant part of the fishing fleet operates in neighboring countries through bilateral fisheries agreements. And a suspension of these fisheries agreements will affect the fishermen revenues. This is the case now, because the fishery agreement with Mauritania is now stopped. And very important are political and institutional risk. The political risk is linked to the public nature of fisheries resources, requiring a regulation of their exploitation in order to avoid distortions and unfair situations between fishermen. Access to resources in Senegal is largely unregulated for the small-scale sector. This situation generates overfishing and contributes to operational losses. Political and institutional risks also encompass corruption and weak institutional capacity. We have identified other risks such as pollution risk and post-harvest losses due to the lack of conservation infrastructure. Another aspect of this study is to do a mapping of existing risk management policies and tools. We give some examples. For example, in the policy and environment, the fishing policy document adopted in 2009 and updated in 2016 provides these risk management tools, but these tools do not cover all risk. Also, in most cases, existing tools are inefficient or not applied. For example, we have fisheries management plans. They are efficient tools for reducing the risk of exploitation, but they are poorly implemented. As for the vulnerability in environmental conditions, you have a strategy from fishermen, which is to migrate toward more productive fishing grounds. But there is no tools from the government aiming to manage this risk, this kind of risk. As for the meteorological and climate risk, since 2015, initiatives have been taken to deal with meteorological risk, through strengthening capacities of local actors on safety at sea and their access to meteorological information and alerts. An insurance system to cover this type of risk has been also developed. For the IU fishing risk, the Ministry of Fisheries has adopted a national action plan in 2014. But Senegal has also adopted a new Fisheries Act in 2015. One of the major innovations is a substantial increase in fines for IU fishing offenses. As for the risk of restriction on access to the EEZ of the neighboring countries, we can say that Senegal is not currently prepared for any restriction or closure of access to EEZ in neighboring countries. This risk is likely to generate strong social tensions in Sahel, for example. Sahel is at the border with Mauritania, and this risk can exacerbate overcapacity in Senegal's waters whenever if there is a repatriation of this fleet. As for the market risk, we have a catch certification system put in place, and the current sanitary control system are efficient tools. For the cost of the risks, in our study, the total cost of the identified risk is estimated at around 150 billion CFA, which means 2,050 million US dollars. The risk associated with IU fishing rank first in terms of financial impact. Here you have the ranking of most severe risks. IU fishing risk is the first, and then you have operational risk, and then climatic risk, then variability of environmental condition risk, and the other risk, pollution risk, post-harvest risk, and then restriction on access to the EEZ of the neighboring countries, and then meteorological risk, and at last, market risk. For the conclusion and recommendation of the study, what we can say is that fishing is a high-risk sector, and the cost of identified risk is also very high. This can be explained by the fact that this activity is based on the exploitation of a public resource, a public and a natural resource. So it needs strong regulations. A poor regulation of this sector by the government just increases the risk on production and adds to the natural risk which is intrinsic to fishing activity. For that reason, the strong recommendation is to improve governance and strengthening current risk management tools, providing support to fisheries management plans, improving the governance, in particular, promoting transparency in the licensing system and fighting against corruption, providing also support to the National Action Plan to combat IE fishing. Thank you very much for your attention, and I beg your pardon for my bad English. Thanks.
Alioune, that was a really, really great, succinct, and understandable synopsis of the work that you did, and your English is fantastic. Thank you for taking the time to be with us here today. We're going to get a discussion going on what you offered us in the way of your information, but we're going to first have a short presentation on the first part. And Jesus, I'm wondering if you can start to introduce that while I get our sound sorted here, because I do think we're able to connect in Abraman right now. But Jesus, if you could maybe give us a short intro to that while I do that, that'd be fantastic.
I mean, hello, yes.
Yes, I just unmuted you.
Yeah, I hope that Abdelrahman is able to make the presentation, because I have not. It's the one which is knowledgeable of what is being done. As you know, we have heard about the main risks that are affecting the fishery sector. In terms of the livestock, the main focus, as we are going to hear, is using the same kind of methodology, and I probably Alioune has not made so much emphasis on this idea, and maybe I can complete that now. Meanwhile, when Abdelrahman gets connected, the idea of measuring this risk using three main elements of measurement, which is the average frequency of the events happening, the average severity of these events happening, and also the worst case scenario in terms of severity. And we use a methodology in order to quantify these annual risks using combining these three elements. And we use it in a way that we can compare all the risk and quantify all the risk independently of its source. Sometimes the information available for all of the risk is not the same, and I'm sure that Abdelrahman will explain with more detail what the difficulties on the different types of risk, and the extent to which there are databases that can able to quantify these risks. For instance, it's very often in many countries, as we have been finding so far, that animal and plant diseases have very low type of information and incomplete information systems compared to other information that for other risks like climate and markets. The top risk that will be presented by Abdelrahman in a moment for livestock are those related with bush fires, but I'm sure he will be able to better explain the context of that in case of Senegal, and then animal diseases, which is of course a core and main source of risk. Probably across both of study that we have done in fisheries and in livestock, we find, and probably also in the World Bank, which is more broader in the whole agricultural sector and crop sector, we have found that there are quite a diversity of these sources of risk, which are not so much concentrated on a specific risk in the case of Senegal, and we may need to think about strategies that cover a lot of different tools that are cross-cutting across different sources of risk, like some of the ones that were mentioned by Stephen before in terms of early warning systems or having information systems and access to information by farmers, and other kind of horizontal tools like financial tools that can help to manage most of the risks. I think I would stop here if hopefully Wane is available and can complete and really make the right presentation on livestock. He is really the knowledgeable person. Are you there, Wane? Abdurrahman?
Yes, thank you. I will try because I'm now in Niamey traveling with some technical issues, but I will try to just give you some rapid message about it. It was not my first time to work on Senegal livestock risk assessment. I'm very happy to know that in the panel there is my friend Stephen Alessandro. I was in his team when he worked on livestock risk assessment the first time in Senegal. Livestock sector in Senegal is a very important sector contributing to around 30% of GDP of the country. And also, in terms of livelihood, livestock farming provides an income for nearly 350,000 rural families, what is almost equivalent to 3 million individuals. In Senegal, very quickly, we have mainly three areas of livestock production system. We have at the north, in the agro-pastoral and pastoral areas, we have a mobile production system and livelihoods, where we can find some agro-pastoralists and agro-pastoralists also. Along the Atlantic coast of Senegal, we have what we call the Nye area, where we can find a great potential for agriculture and animal production. But in this area, we have a high sensibility to economy. Yeah, that's why we find mainly some DT issues in this area. In the southeast region, named Casamance, we have a system based on mobility and the use of natural resources to produce endemic ruminant livestock, particularly resistant to trichomoniasis. We have in this area many agro-pastoralists working in this zone. In terms of environment, we have many constraints in the animal production in Senegal, along with a lack of infrastructure and basic social and economic services. But that constraint was not the purpose of our studies. We mainly focus on risk because in addition to the constraints, livestock farming sector in Senegal facing effects caused mainly by climate change, by health issues, by political issues, and social ones. The aim of this study was clearly not to analyze those constraints, but rather to identify and assess the risk. What was really interesting in this work, we clearly at the starting of this work decided to have a quotation of the main risk, even if we are in the context of data that are a bit fragile. Sometimes we have some missing data, and we try to deal with it. But finally, we found an average annual loss of 600 billion in francs CFA, what is almost equivalent to $1 billion US. The main contributors of this in this annual cost, annual losses are animal diseases at almost 70%. We have bushfires at 25%. We have conflict that contribute very marginally. And seasonal rains, we have some impact, but a bit marginal comparing to the others. And we have also drought and locust invasion. To calculate things, we have two kinds of data. We based our analysis on literature review, on the livestock sector in Senegal, and the mining of secondary data collected by state technical departments and research institutions. We also conduct many interviews with state technical departments and with many actors and in the subsector to pinpoint as accurately as possible the main threats and their dynamic. For risk linked to rainfall and the temperature, something like that, risk related to climate change, we carried out further analysis using simulation methods such as Monte Carlo method and extreme value theory. For other risk factors, we really undertaken based on the information available from research and development institutions. We proceed to a prioritization approach to rank and classify risks that were identified, and to finalize the observation and comments made during a feedback workshop in Dakar help us to integrate as best as possible many comments and feedback. In terms of scoring, even animal health in terms of absolute value weight more, but in terms of score using methods developed by IFAD, we found that the bushfires dominate with a score of 5, followed by animal health, then rainfalls, market risks, and risk related to conflict and plague of locusts. When we use this work to better understand what's happening in terms by region, what we identify their risk, we found that bushfires really consisting in very high risk in the 3 areas. What was also interesting in this work is to note that at the state side we have many risk management procedures and instruments developed by the states to face up to the risks the main risk, the main identified risk. For bushfires, we have the ecological monitoring center giving a monitoring of ecological aspects. For animal disease, the Directorate of Veterinary Services monitoring priority disease. We have for climate and feeding National Fund of Agriculture Insurance of Senegal, developing some instruments to help people and actors to face up to main risk. We have a disaster risk management system based on what we call livestock safeguarding operation, consisting to distribute some food and feed for people and animals facing up to climate risk. And we have also African Union initiative called ARC, Agricultural Risk Capacity, and Senegal will aim and continue to be very involved on this initiative, taking some insurance to protect people. For markets, we have a monitoring of main markets from the Commissariat of Food for Food Security. And another problem emerging, but creating risk of insecurity in Senegal is related to cattle theft. And the government developed the livestock theft unit to try to deal with this problem. And for conflict, we have the growing up of pastoral codes. What is really also interesting in this study, and to conclude, we note that we have a great need to move from emergency response to threat to long-term risk management. The idea is to put into the main institution, the public institution, this spirit to try to identify risks, to quantify them, and to try to find solutions about against the main risk. The second observation and recommendation we made was to make the collection of reliable information as a main responsibility of the state. We need to strengthen the capacity of state technical services and giving them support to better reach to better meet expectations against problem linked to risk. And also to boost passive and active surveillance system for the main threats, especially in animal disease. We have some first step, very important step, but maybe we need to expand the step to help people, to support them to better follow and monitor the main disease, not only to monitor, say, priority disease, because we have many things. By monitoring the risk, maybe we can find some solution to tackle this issue. So this is very, very quickly what I found during this very interesting study. What was for me very innovative, because pushing me to be patient, to post risk, and to push people to discuss about it and to challenge the challenge. Thank you so much. I'm sorry for technical issues.
Aberman, thank you so much. I'm really happy that we managed to get your sound sorted, because that was an incredibly valuable presentation, and you managed to pack all of that in such a short amount of time. So huge amount of appreciation for you for doing that. Thank you again. We are running over now. We are at 2 minutes over, and I don't see any questions from any of the participants. So I will probably pass the floor over to Jesus to provide some final words. Before I do that, I want to encourage you to check out the video that we didn't show. I've shared the link in both the chat box and the Q&A. We will also follow up with that link and several other links in an email. And we will be sharing a recording of this webinar with you and anybody else who wasn't able to make it. So please do look out for that. Thank you for being here and bearing with us as we work through our technical difficulties and some of the sound issues. Jesus, I'm going to give the floor over to you to provide some concluding remarks.
Rebecca, thank you very much, Rebecca, and thank you very much for these very good presentations. Definitely, technology was not in our side today, but I think the presentations are very giving very interesting information in terms of what are the main risks affecting all the sectors, and it's very complementary with the work that the World Bank was doing. All the reports are available in the corresponding in our website and in the website of the World Bank, and I really invite all the participants to get to these reports in order to get more detail if they are interested, and also to the video, which really will explain very well how this kind of engagement that Stefan was presenting at the beginning as a key element in order to manage risks in agriculture, the engagement from the stakeholders and the engagement from the government is at play in a concrete example of this workshop that we had in in Dakar. Let me just, to finalize, recognize this diversity of risk that are affecting the whole agricultural sector, both the fisheries, the livestock, and the agriculture in Senegal, and how from PARM we are trying to move ahead in identifying tools that can handle this kind of diversity of risk from a perspective of tools that can be used for different types of these risks. And that there we're working in 3 specific directions, and those are those related with information systems that have been very much mentioned, for instance, in the last presentation by Abraham on the importance of the surveillance and information systems, also in the work by the World Bank, and we think this access to information and good information systems through the appropriate devices and tools can help the assessment and the management of the risk at a farm level. We were going to work as well on capacity development, so to be improving not only the access to information, but the capacity to manage and process this information and to identify the right tools. And another area which we think is very interested in is the issue of access to finance as a way of managing all kind of risk, and particularly through the use of trying to investigate the use of remittances as an important door open to access to financing, particularly in a country like Senegal, which have approximately 10% of the GDP of remittances. We will have a discussion on all these and other potential tools to manage this risk in a workshop that will be organized in Dakar in early July, and you will receive detailed information on this. Thank you very much to all the speakers and discussants and participants for your attention, and hope to see you soon in another webinar or in our website or our activities. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I hope everybody has a great day or night, wherever you are in the world, and we'll see you in the next webinar.